This is the model solutions for the March 2008 Foundation Tier paper or Homework Paper 1. The first 25 questions are all multiple choice, and as it says here, you must not be using a calculator. So, question 1, what is the number 3020 in words? 3020 is going to be this one here, B. Question 2, which number is a multiple of 6? Remember, the word multiple means that it's in the times tables of the number 6. So the number here, 18, is in the 6 times table. Here is a shaded rectangle on centimetre grid for question 3, and it's asking us what the area of that shaded rectangle is. So I can count the squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is 8 centimetres squared, D. Question 4. In 1 week, 9,786 people visited a museum. The number 9,786 rounded to the nearest 10 is, so I'm looking for the tens, which is the 8 here. So I'll draw my little line, and I can see that this 6 means I'm going to round up. So it's going to become 979 and then a 0 on the end, which is C, 9,790. Okay, question 5. Here is a sequence of patterns made from sticks, pattern 1, 2, and 3. And I've got a little table here telling me the pattern number and the number of sticks in each pattern. What is the number of sticks needed for pattern 4? So I'm looking for a pattern here. How many sticks are increasing as I move along for each pattern? So I can see that I'm adding 7. I'm adding another 7. So I need to add another 7 onto here in order to get pattern number 4. 19 add 7 is 26. So the answer is A. Which triangle is an isosceles triangle? Remember, an isosceles triangle has 2 sides that are exactly the same length. So I'm looking for which triangle here that is an isosceles, and that is going to be D, because this length here and this length here are exactly the same. Number 7, here are first 4 numbers in a sequence. The next number in the sequence is, a bit like question 5 of the patterns above, I'm looking for the difference between my numbers. So I can see that my sequence is adding on 5 every single time. So I'm looking for adding on 5 to 19. So I want to have 24, which is B. Another way I can look at this one is you can see that the numbers end in 4, 9, 4, 9, 4. The next one would then be 29 for ending in a 9. Okay, question 8. Here is a list of decimal numbers. Robert is going to write the numbers in order of size. He writes down the smallest number. Which number should he write down next? So I'm not looking for the smallest, I'm looking for the one after that. So if I look at these numbers here, they all have different lengths of decimals. To make my life easier, I'm going to add some zeros to the end there. So they all now have 3 decimal places. This one already has 3 decimal places. Now I can spot which one will be the smallest number out of all of these. And I can see that the smallest number is going to be 2.3. So the next one that's going to appear after that is going to be this one here, which is 2.389, followed by the 2.39, the 2.4, and the 2.41. But I'm looking for the next number after he writes down the smallest. So I want this one here, 2.39. Question 9. What are the coordinates of point P? Remember, we always go along the corridor for our x value, and then we go up or down the stairs for our y value. So I'm going to go along for my x, and I've come to 1, and I'm going to go down the stairs to my y, which is minus 2. So I want 1 minus 2, which is A. Question 10. What is the size of the angle marked x? Well, you can see all of these angles are around a point, and angles around a point must add up to 360 degrees. So if I work out what I've got already, 130 and 120 means I've got 250 degrees already. So I want to work out what I need left over in order to get up to 360. And I can see that I need an angle of 110, which is going to be C. Okay, question 11. Which of these is a prime number? Remember, a prime number can only be divided by 1 and itself. It should have 2 factors. Well, 4 will also divide by 2, so it cannot be that one. 9 will also divide by 3, so it cannot be that one. 15 will also divide by 3 and 5. 12 will divide by 3 and 4. So 7 is the prime number there because it only divides by 1 and 7. Which fraction is equal to 4 over 5 for question 12? So I'm looking for an equivalent fraction that is the same as 4 over 5. So if I look at these, one of these should hopefully simplify to 4 over 5. So 7/8 cannot be simplified. This would simplify to 1 over 5 if I half the top and half the bottom. These two will both divide by 4. How many 4s are in 16? 4. How many 4s are in 25? There we go. It is C, which is the equivalent fraction to 4/5. I could carry on and do the others. This would divide by 10 on the top and the bottom, and this one here would divide by 4 on the top and the bottom. So we can see that C is the answer. Here is a rectangle for question 13. What's the perimeter of the rectangle? Remember, the perimeter is the distance around the outside. So I have a 4 centimeter length, 3 centimeter width. This will also be 3, and this will also be 4. So I need to add 3, 3, 4, and 4, which gives me 14 centimeters, which is D. Here are the first 6 terms in a sequence. What is the 9th term of the sequence for question 14? So I need to first work out what my difference is, a bit like the earlier questions we did. I'm adding 3, I'm adding 4, I'm adding 3, I'm adding 4. So I have a slightly different pattern going on here. And then I'm adding on 3. So it's not adding the same thing every time. So I now want to get to the 9th term of the sequence. So I'm going to add on 4 to get to 25. I'm going to add on 3 to get to 28. And I'm going to add on 4 to get to 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's the 9th number, 32. Question 15. A train leaves London at 16:50. It arrives in Manchester at 19:15. How long does the journey take? Well, 16:50 is 50 minutes past 4. So I know that I need to add on another 10 minutes until I get myself to 5 o'clock or 1700 hours. And then 1700 hours, I know that I can add on to get to 19:15 or 7:15. I'm going to add on 2 hours and 15 minutes. So altogether, I have added on 2 hours and 15 plus 10, which is 2 hours and 25 minutes, which is A. Question 16. PQR is an isosceles triangle. We talked about isosceles triangles earlier. They have 2 identical length sides, here and here. And it tells us that QP is equal to QR. That's QP, that's QR. And this angle at the top here, we're told, is 50 degrees. We've got to work out angle X here. Now, not only in an isosceles triangle are these 2 sides the same, but these 2 base angles are also the same. So that will be X, as will that. And we know that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So if I take off the 50 that I already know, I know I have 130 degrees left. And these 2 have to add up to 130 degrees. So if I divide that by 2, I will find out that each one is going to be 65 degrees, which is going to be D. Question 17. Which fraction is the largest? Now, in order to compare fractions for question 17, I must make sure I have a common denominator. So if I look at all these numbers on the denominators, I've got a 15, a 5, a 10, a 20, and a 60. 60 is the biggest, so I'm going to try and turn all of these into a fraction out of 60. Then I can see which fraction is going to be my largest one. So with 15 on the denominator, I need 4 of these, so I have a 60 on the bottom, because 15 times 4 is 60, so I'm going to times the top by 4 as well to get 44. 4/5, I know that 12 5s will go into 60, so I'm going to times the 5 by 12 and times the 4 by 12, which is 48. 6 10s will go into 60, so I want to times that by 6, so 6 9s are 54. And I'm going to times the 20 by 3 to make 60, so 3 13s are 39. So the largest fraction is this one here, 9/10, which is 54 over 60. Almost this one, but not quite. Question 18. What is -7 added to -3? So I'm going to write this as a calculation. I've got -3, and I'm adding on -7. So if I want to think about my number line, I'll draw a little sketch of one over here. Here is my -3 on my number line. Here's my -3 there. So if I was going to add 7, I'd be going up my number line if I was adding 7. But I'm not adding 7, I'm adding a -7. So I want to come down because I'm adding a negative number. So I'm at -3, I'm going to go down 7 spaces. I'm going to get to -10, which is E. Okay, question 19. A shop sells CDs for X pounds. Darren is buying 8 of these CDs. What is the expression in terms of X for the total cost of 8 CDs? Well, if he's buying 1 CD, he's having 1 lot of X. If he's buying 2 CDs, he's buying 2 lot of X. He wants to buy 8 CDs, so he wants 8 lots of X. Now in algebra, we can write that a little bit simpler by not including the times sign, which means we're going to write 8x, which is D. Question 20. RST is an equilateral triangle. Remember, an equilateral triangle means that all 3 sides are exactly the same. It also means that all 3 angles are going to be exactly the same as well. So if triangles add up to 180 degrees for their angles, I'm going to divide that by 3 because I have 3 identical angles. Each one is going to be 60 degrees. So angle X is going to be 60 degrees. 21. 487 is divided by 23. What is the remainder? So I'm going to set up a bus stop for this. 23 is going to go into 487. Now I need to know my 23 times table to work out how many 23 is going to go into this number. So down the side here, I'm going to write myself a little 23 times table. So 23, 46, 69, 92, 115. I'll stop there for now and see if I need to do any more. So 23 goes into 4. It doesn't go. So I'm going to put 0 and carry the 4 across. 23 into 48. Well, I can see that goes twice. And I have 2 left over. 23 into 27 is only going to go my once. And I'm going to have 4 left over here. Now it asks me for the remainder. So I'm going to put the remainder like this. And I'm not going to do it as a decimal because I don't want the decimal answer. I just want the remainder, which is going to be B. I have 4 left over. The highest common factor of 16 and 36 is. So highest common factor can be done in a few different ways. I'm going to do it as a product of prime factors because this is something we've been learning recently. So I'm going to split my 16 into prime factors. Oh, sorry, that should be an 8 there. 2 and 4 and 2 and 2. So 16 is going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And 36, going to do product of prime factors for that one as well. So the 36 is going to be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. And remember, I set up my little Venn diagram. And anything that goes into both 16 and 36 is the highest common factor, and that's going to be in the middle section here. So what prime factors go into both? So I've got a 2 in both lists. I've got another 2 in both lists. And I've got and that's it. I only have a 3 on this side and then 2's left on that side. So the highest common factor is going to be 2 times 2, which is 4. So A is my answer. Question 23. Last few questions. The diagram shows a rectangular floor. The length of the floor is 3 meters and the width of the floor is 2 meters. Jane is going to cover the floor with tiles, and each tile is a square of side 50 centimeters. Now remember, this is in meters and this is in centimeters. We might need to do some conversions here to help us. Jane is going to cover the floor completely. How many tiles does she need? Well, I know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. I need to know that fact for my exams. So this is going to be 300 centimeters, and this one's going to be 200 centimeters. Now, if I've got a 50 centimeter square tile, that's going to mean that I can fit 6 tiles along here, and 200 divided by 50 means that I can fit 4 tiles along here. So if I can fit 6 across here and 4 across here, 6 times 4 is 24. I'm going to need 24 tiles. Question 24, a coordinate question. Which are the coordinates of the midpoint of the line ST? So a midpoint means I'm looking for the halfway point between 2 coordinates. So there's 1 coordinate here and 1 coordinate here. So let's look at the x coordinates first. I'm looking for the number that's halfway between 2 and 7. If I'm not too sure what's halfway between 2 and 7, I simply add the 2 numbers together and then divide by 2. 2 add 7 is 9, divided by 2 is 4.5. So I'm looking for an x coordinate of 4.5. Well, there's only one of them here with an x coordinate of 4.5, so I think it's going to be B, but let's just check the y coordinate as well. The y coordinates are 3 and 9, so let's find what's midway or halfway between those. 3 add 9 divided by 2. 3 add 9 is 12, divided by 2 is 6, so I was correct. B is the coordinate of the midpoint. Final question on the multiple choice, question 25. Here are the first 5 terms of an arithmetic sequence. What is the expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence? So I need to know 2 things for this. I need to know what is the difference between my terms of the sequence, and I can see that I'm adding 3 every time. And I want to know that if there was a number here at the very beginning, what would that number be? And I want to think of D-I-N-O. Okay, so I'm looking for the difference, which is going to be 3, times by n. And then I want to know what this, we call this the 0th term, is going to be. So if there was a number before the 2, if it existed, I'd need to come back 3 spaces, and that number there would be -1. So my 0th term here is -1. That is my nth term rule, E. Okay, part 2 of the paper is now a calculator paper that I'm allowed to use, and I think I've got 10 questions on this one. So let's have a little look at these, and we are now allowed to use our calculator. Here's a list of numbers. From the list, write down a square number. So a square number, we know, comes from multiplying a number by itself to give us this square number. So essentially, which of these here could be square rooted? Now I know that I can square root 4, so 4 is a square number. I also know that 16 I can square root, so 16 is a square number. So I could write down either of those. I'm going to write down the number 4. A cube number comes from a number times by itself 3 times. So it has a cube root. So a square root is this button on the calculator. A cube root would be this button on the calculator, which I get from pressing Shift and then my square root button here. It's just here in yellow above there. Now I know that 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So the cube root of 8 would be 2. So that 8 is a cube number. That is the only cube number listed. You'd have to put down the number 8. Question 2. Little bit of algebra. Simplify D, add D, add D, add D, add D. So I have got 5 Ds that I'm adding together. So I can say that is simply 5D. Question 3. Magazines cost £2.45 each. Farah buys 3 magazines. So first of all, I'm going to use that information. 3 magazines at £2.45 each. Remember, I've got my calculator to make my life easier. So I'm going to type that in, and I can see that that's £7.35. Now it then says she pays with a £10 note. How much change should she get? So I'm going to take my £10 note, and I want to subtract the £7.35 that she spent. And I can see that my answer is £2.65. Let's pop that on the answer line as well. There we go. Nice, easy 3 marks. Okay, turning over to question 4. Some more triangles now. Remember we talked about triangles a moment ago. We talked about isosceles and equilateral, but now I want to draw a right-angled triangle. Remember, a right angle has an angle that is 90 degrees in it. So I could draw any triangle here. In an exam, you must use a pencil, but I'm using red pen so it shows up a little bit clearer on the camera. So I'm just going to draw a triangle here that's got a nice, easy right angle. And I'm going to even label my right angle. There we go. There's a right angle triangle. Now I need to draw myself an isosceles triangle. Remember, I need to have 2 sides that are exactly the same. So I could do this in a variety of different ways. I like to draw it where I have almost like a tent kind of shape coming down like this. So I'm going to make sure that my base is, let's go for 4 squares along. There we go. And I want to pick a point that's going to be exactly in the middle here. Somewhere at the top, let's use that point up there. And I'm going to draw a line here and a line here. There's my isosceles triangle. Okay, question 5. Find the value of 4 squared. Don't forget I've got a calculator, so I'm going to type that in. 4 squared, 16. We should know that already, but just in case, our calculator will help us to check. Find the value of the square root of 225. So here's my square root button. Square root of 2.25 or 2.25, and 1.5 is my answer. There we go. Question 6. How many faces has a cube? Remember, a cube is like a dice, so it has 6 faces. 6 sides, 6 faces. Part B, the diagram shows a cuboid. The length of the cuboid is 6, the width of the cuboid is 2, and the height of the cuboid is 4. Work out the volume of the cuboid. Now, to work out the volume of any prism, this is also a prism, I want to find the area of the cross section, which is the N shape, and then multiply it by how long that prism is. So I'm going to do 2 times 4, and I'm going to multiply it by how long the prism is, which is 6. Again, I can use my calculator, and I have an answer of 48. So the volume of that cuboid or that prism, I'll pop it on the answer line as well, is 48 centimeters cubed. Question 7. I've got a set of parallel lines here. ABCD is a straight line, so that's this line here. A to B to C to D, that's a straight line. And I'm told that PQ is parallel to RS. I know that from this. I also know that from the little arrows that are here. Write down the size of the angle marked X. Well, angle X is this one here. And I can see that the angle of 50 and the angle of X there are both sat on a straight line. Now, on a straight line, their angles should add up to 180 degrees. So 180, take off the 50 that I've already got here, gives me an answer left of 130. So X must be 130 degrees. So the reason for my answer, which I'm asked to explain here, is because angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. And that's all I need to write. Part B asks me to tell me the size of angle marked Y. So now if I look back at my diagram, I can see that the angle Y is down here. It's not got any other partner on a straight line. But I can now use the angle facts that I have from parallel lines here, where this straight line crossing over creates this Z shape. This Z shape is known as alternate angles, and it means that this 50 degrees here and this Y are exactly the same. So Y is going to be 50 degrees, and my reason is because alternate angles are equal. Question 8. So this is a straight line graph question, and I have to complete the table of values, and then I have to draw the graph on the grid here below. Now they've been nice and they've given me a couple of values already up here, but I need to fill in these 3 here to get these 2 marks. So I'm given an equation for my line, y equals 4x add 3, and that's my instructions. That's telling me what I have to do in order to work out the values of y, which are these 3 blanks here. So 4x means I have to multiply by 4, and then I have to add on 3. So I'm going to take my x value, multiply by 4, and add 3. They've done this one for me. I'm now going to do the next one along. I don't like doing negatives so much. I might make a mistake here. So I'm going to start with my positives and then check the pattern as I go down. It should form a straight line. So 1 times 4 is 4. Add my 3 is 7. 4 times my 0 is 0. Add my 3 is 3. And I can now see a pattern forming. I'm dropping by 4 every time. And that makes sense because my gradient is 4 here. So if I drop by another 4, I get down to minus 5. But I can just check that. 4 lots of minus 2 is minus 8. And if I add 3 to it, to minus 8, I end up with minus 5. So I know I've done that correct. Now I need to plot that in this graph or this grid here. So let's start off. I'm going to plot all of these pairs of coordinates until I form a nice straight line, which I want to join up with a ruler. So minus 2, minus 5 is my first one, down the bottom here. Then I've got minus 1, which is going to go here. Nice and clear. Notice I'm going right on the corners of the grids. 0 and 3. 1 and 7. And 2 and 11. And then I can get my ruler. And I can join up all of those points into a nice straight line. If you do not join up your points with a straight line, you will lose at least 1 mark in the exam. Okay, last 2 questions. Question 9. A can of cola costs X pence, an ice cream costs Y pence, Atif is buying 3 cans of cola and 2 ice creams. Write down an expression in terms of x and y for the total cost in pence. So I'm looking for an expression, so I don't need an equal sign in that. A can of cola is costing x pence. Now he's buying 3 cans. So if I bought 1 can, that would be 1x. If I bought 2 cans, that's 2x. I'm buying 3 cans, so that is going to be 3x. He's buying 2 ice creams. Well, 1 ice cream would be 1y. He wants 2 of them, so he wants 2y. And if this is the cost for his cola, and this is the cost for his ice creams, and I want a total cost, I'm going to add those two things together. And that is simply my expression, 3x plus 2y. Final question, question 10. Here's a list of ingredients needed to make 8 pancakes. 8 pancakes need 120 grams of plain flour, 1 egg, 300 mils of milk, and 1 tablespoon of oil. Work out how much plain flour is needed to make 10 pancakes. So first of all, I can see that I've got 8 pancakes. If I double that recipe, I don't get 10, I get 16. If I halve that recipe, I get 4 pancakes, which doesn't really help me because if I add it on, I get 12. But if I halved it again, or divided by 4, I would get 2 pancakes. Now, taking 8 pancakes and 2 pancakes and adding them together will get me a recipe for 10. So I'm going to try that. So, to get 2 pancakes, I'm going to divide everything by 4. 120 grams, I'm not sure, I've got my calculator. I can divide by 4, is 30. So I need 30 grams of plain flour. 1 egg, well, if I divide that by 4, I'm just going to simply have 1/4 of an egg. Now, I know that doesn't make sense because you can't buy 1/4 of an egg, but you could crack an egg into a jug and then you could measure out what 1/4 of that volume would be. 300 mils divided by 4 is going to be 75. And 1 tablespoon of oil, well, 1 divided by 4 is 1/4 of a tablespoon. That's how you write tablespoon for short. So if I want 10 pancakes, I want this recipe for 8 and this recipe for 2 added together. So I'm going to have plain flour. That's all I want here. I need the 120 grams, and I want the 30 that I've listed there, which is going to be 150 grams.